I will go straight to the point. Wisp is one of the most versatile frame in the game right now. It really took me long to do a Wisp video, not because she is hard to understand, but because there are lots of things that you can do with Wisp, and I hope to show all of that in this video. So, without further ado, let's get this detailed Wisp video started. So my Wisp only have 2-FORMA. I know, it's kind of impossible, as I usually forma my frame a lot to test out different build variations, but right after testing every possible build for Wisp, in every mission in the game, I find the 2-FORMA sufficient. By the way, all you need is 1- polarity, and 1v polarity, to switch from being a spy, to a survivalist, or to any role that Wisp can do effectively. Okay, so before we see each builds, let's try to understand each of her abilities first. Basically, her first ability is called Reservoirs, which allows Wisp to summon 3 pods, that gives her and her allies buff, and the ability to crowd control. The Vitality pod will give max health and health regeneration mote. The Haste pod will give speed and fire rate mote, while the Shock buff emits electric current that can paralyze enemies within the area. The pods last indefinitely, while the mote, or the buff given by the pods, last for a couple of seconds while outside of the reservoirs. This ability do synergy with your third ability, and allows you to teleport Wisp to the location of an active reservoir, doubling the range of Breach Surge in the process. It also synergizes well with your fourth ability. The Vitality and Shock motes do give your Soul Gate an additional 25% damage increase respectively, while you can deal corrosive procs on every damage instance when you have the Haste mote. Her second ability is called Will-O-Wisp. This ability allows you to summon forward a Spectre which will distract enemies. In addition, you can gain 3 seconds of invulnerability upon pressing the ability key again while the Spectre is traveling. And lastly, this ability works like Niz's Chakram, which allows you to teleport on the last location of the Spectre by pressing the ability key again. Now, this ability does work well with your Breach Surge and Soul Gate abilities also. It allows you to create another Breach Surge once you cast your third ability while the Spectre is traveling, and you can use this ability also while you are using your Soul Gate. Not only does it gives you mobility, but it actually gives you that safety net while you are beaming the enemies with the power of the sun. Her third ability is called Breach Surge. Many people believe that the only purpose of this ability is for crowd control, which is really wrong. Yes, it's a good way to crowd control, but the real strong point of this ability is offense. It doesn't just give out bonus damage, but it actually enables stealth multiplier, which adds another layer of bonus damage. But that's not all. The ability can also do radiation damage and inherits a damage multiplier received by the source enemy to inflict on the new target. Long story short, this ability is a recipe for wiping out a bunch of enemies grouped together in just a couple of seconds. Yes, I'm talking about nuking, and we will discuss that later. One more thing. This ability does synergy well with all of Wisp's abilities. It allows you to teleport when used with your first ability, create a second Breach Surge when used with your Will-O-Wisp, and finally, this ability does give your Soul Gate Solar Plasma Beam a 100% chance to trigger a Surge Spark on every hit. Her fourth and last active ability is called Soul Gate. Basically this is Goku's Kamihame Wave. It does radiation damage per tick but can be converted to corrosive when you have the Haste mote. Although Wisp can't perform parkour maneuvers while this ability is active, she can still be mobile and safe with her second ability, and she can also be immune to knockdown while using Soul Gate. Last but not least, her passive ability called Phased allows Wisp to be invisible while she is airborne. It may sound really simple, but it's actually a great passive ability. We will talk about how good her passive later, but for now, let me present to you the build variations I have for Wisp. So first, let's discuss the speed build, perfect for capture missions, and farming resources in open world areas. What you need is a lot of power strength in your build, to further boost the speed buff of your ability. In my build, I only have 293% power strength, because these are the only power strength mods that can fit my 2-FORMA versatile build. I did choose to also have some efficiency to negate the negative effect of blind rage, and also, I did add duration mods so the buff duration of Wisp's haste mode will be longer. Well, sufficient for this build to say the least. Now, this speed build can be used on capture missions, but it's more effective in farming resources on both planes of Eidolon and Orb Vallis. Also, you can incorporate the synergy of your reservoirs and breach surge abilities while farming resources in open worlds. You can tactically put pods in specific places, so you can easily teleport to them when you want. A bonus tip would be bringing a sniper rifle so you can easily find those pods. The second one is for Eidolon hunts. Yes, Wisp can do Eidolon hunting. The build is almost similar to the speed build, as it has lots of power duration, but for this variant, I'm incorporating more survivability mods in the form of umbral mods and adaptation. I also added rage for energy restore, but if you are with an organized team, I would go for efficiency mods, as I know that you will be taking down those limbs with a couple of shots. To be honest, Wisp is a good DPS and support for the team. I know, she doesn't have the raw damage of Chroma, but what she has is her haste pod, which turns your sniper rifles to fast-firing Eidolon killer. Also, she can support the team with her vitality moat. The increase in max health, plus health regeneration will definitely make the team a bit tanky. And yes, she can easily avoid those magnetic spikes by spamming her Will-O-Wisp ability. However, as versatile as Wisp can be at Eidolon hunts, there are some flaws of using her in this mission. Some of the most obvious ones are, she can't heal the Eidolon lures, and it would definitely force you to change everything on your Eidolon hunting team setup. She's more like, I want to play Wisp to get out of the meta, rather than, I want to do 6x3 Eidolon hunts with Wisp. She can replace Chroma as a DPS support, but not as exceptional as the most meta Eidolon hunting team right now. Now before we proceed to the next build, I would like to say that theoretically, Wisp will definitely be good in fighting those big spiders in Orb Vallis with a team. I'm sorry if I can't show you footage, as currently, most players are soloing the fight with Chroma, but for an organized team, Wisp will definitely be a great asset, as there are no mechanics in this fight that will task you to conserve Void Strike to take down the shields. All you need to do is hit the Orb Mothers with the right element. Wisp will allow the team to take it down easily and safely, because of her insane fire rate buff and health buff. Okay, now let's proceed to the next build variation. The next one is for those who like doing tough missions in the game, or for those who like to tango with high-level enemies. Basically, it's an endgame build, and this is how I mod my Wisp for endgame plays. The idea for this build is to give Wisp lots of power strength while having enough range and efficiency to make her first, second and third abilities effective against high-level enemies. By the way, adaptation is not really necessary, as we will most likely be relying on Wisp's passive ability at endgame levels. This is actually a default depolarity, and I don't intend on replacing it, as it would probably mess up my 2-FORMA versatile build. But actually, you can replace this slot with another efficiency or power strength mods. That is if you just want to play Wisp at endgame levels like endurance runs. Now umbral mods are not necessary but just personal preference. I just love to have high health value while increasing my power strength at the same time, but both stretch and aerial vantage are a must of this endgame mod setup of mine. Aerial vantage will be used so my fingers can relax every once in a while from pressing the jump button, while range mods are important so that our breach surge can affect a bunch of enemies. The idea of endgame is to hit hard while not being hit, so, with the mod setup I've shown you earlier, we will most likely rely on Wisp passive ability to keep us alive, but we will also be making good use of her second abilities in vulnerability. That's for the survivability part. The offense part will be all in breach surge and her shock moat. However, Wisp's abilities aren't enough, and we need some good weapons to kill high-level enemies. Now, I could just recommend using endgame guns and melee weapons, but the thing is, since we will be relying so much on her passive, we must consider weapons that won't break her invisibility while she's gliding on the air. There are actually 3 combinations I've discovered that won't break her invisibility, and take full advantage of the breach surge combo I will be showing you. The first one is Azor with Exodia Contagion. The timing is really great for this combo, since we have the Plague Star event going on, and you can farm those Exodia Contagions and try this combo right away. The good thing about Exodia Contagion's projectile is it doesn't break your invisibility while you perform the throw in midair. Also, the damage is insanely high, especially if you have thrown the projectile within 30 meters range, and then you have inflicted the debuff coming from your breach surge. In fact, it can melt those non-armored units with ease. It's really a good combo, but the problem is, you might experience some difficulty using Exodia Contagion with Wisp. Specifically, it might be hard for you to always get that 400% damage coming from the projectile, as enemies will tend to move frequently in a real mission. Even though you have your shock moat stop a bunch of enemies in place, there will still be others that will move around. Also, the self-damage will really hurt you, and can even kill you with just one mistake. And lastly, the damage doesn't scale well against heavily armored units. You can bring something to strip armor before finishing them off with your Exodia Contagion, but the problem is, you will get exposed by doing so. But if you prefer a safer way, then you can just use the Zenistar. The damage of Zenistar's disc scales really well with both Wisp's passive ability and Breach Surge. The thing is, aside from the bonus damage that Breach Surge gives, it also gives you stealth multiplier when enemies get blinded, resulting in even more damage. And the best part is, Wisp's passive ability does also trigger that insane stealth gas damage, which is why I always mod my weapon with gas damage. Not only gas but also other damage over time sources like bleed damage can also benefit from both Wisp's third and passive ability. So how do you melt enemies using this combo? It's pretty simple. All you need to do is drop the Zenistar disc. To do that safely, you can either cast your Breach Surge first, or you can take advantage of your second ability's invulnerability frame. Now to keep enemies from moving, place your shock mote so they will be paralyzed by those electric current being emitted by the pods. The rest will be history, and, in fact, all you need to do is just jump or aim glide, and see enemies being murdered by your Breach Surge stealth gas combo. Zenistar is really great for Wisp, as it's safe to use, and it does wreck enemies in seconds. The problem is, not everybody owns a Zenistar yet. Which leads us to the third and final combo, Wisp with a thrown melee weapon, more specifically, Glaive Prime Wisp. Now I have tried a bunch of thrown melee weapon, but so far, Glaive Prime is the best when it comes to maximizing the nuking capability of Wisp. Like Exodia Contagion and Zenistar, the moment you throw your melee weapon will not break your passive's invisibility. The best part is, Glaive Prime can be modded with 2 damage overtime, which is gas that can easily be obtained by adding Virulent Scourge and Volcanic Edge on your mod setup. And, it can also deal bleed damage since its thrown animation can guarantee /proc. By the way, I use Power Throw so that the projectile can hit a bunch of enemies caught in my shock mote, while Whirlwind is for faster projectile speed. And lastly, Quick Return is really a must as it allows the projectile to return fast when it bounces on a surface. Primed Fury for faster casting animation, and the rest of the mods are for inflicting damage. Take note that you can replace Whirlwind with something else if you think the projectile speed of your Glaive Prime is sufficient. Also, one quick tip is to equip a pistol, otherwise, you can't throw your Glaive Prime while in midair. Now, as you have noticed, all the builds I've shown you are just focused on Wisp's first 3 abilities. To be honest, I don't usually use her fourth, not because it has low damage, but because of how inefficient it is right now. You can have fun with it though, but only on low to mid levels. If you want to just burn anything with the power of the sun, then you can try out this build. Basically, it's a build which focuses solely on your fourth ability. Efficiency alone can't keep up with the energy drain of your fourth, which is why I added the Rage mod, which perfectly pairs well with your Vitality mote. The max health, and as well as the health regeneration, will absolutely keep you alive against level 70 plus enemies. If you are low in health, you can always use your second ability's invulnerability to get some breathing room. So that's it. I know it's a pretty long video, but I do hope that you enjoyed the information I have included in this guide. I really hope that after watching this, you learned something about Wisp, and how to play her like a boss. By the way, I don't know if this is intended or not, but it seems like Wisp invisibility does not go away even if she is inside a nullifier's bubble. It's really a great survivability feature overall. Just don't forget to rest those thumbs of yours. Now go forth and spread the news that Wisp is a press jump to win. I mean, a great versatile frame. But before you do that, please do give this video a like, and subscribe if you are new to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off.